Today I have 30 minutes to walk you through why I think Ridgeline Minerals is one of the most exciting exploration plays happening in Nevada right now. So I have my Verify presentation up and rolling here. So we're going to walk through each of the 4 projects. And if I look like I'm looking away from the screen, it's because I'm mirroring my iPad with the Verify on the same side. So we'll get started. So first, we have the disclaimer. I'm a geologist. I'll probably be making some forward-looking statements today, but I'll try to keep them to a minimum. So why invest in Ridgeline Minerals? I think the way we started as a company is back in 2018. I saw an opportunity to go after some underexplored assets, deeper targets in Nevada. That's the future of discovery in Nevada, in our opinion, is these deeper, higher grade targets like the 4 Mile Gold Rush discoveries that have been made by Barrick previously. So I saw an opportunity to come in, pick up some really great assets. And in return, one of the things I think that set us apart early is I've co-founded the company with the owner of a drilling company. So we came in, he took an equity position in the company at the founder stage. In return, Ridgeline got a 15,000 meter drilling contract for 3 years at a 60% discount to market rate. Now, what that means is we're able to drill at a lower cost than any of our peers. It means more investor dollars go in the ground, and it increases our odds of making a discovery early. And it's actually worked well for us. We've made a new shallow oxide silver gold discovery at our Salina project, which I'll get into shortly. We were looking for gold and we found a silver deposit. So we're very excited about the potential of that. And now we're going after some of our deeper targets on the trend. So a few other things I want to point out. We have one of the largest land positions of any junior in Nevada. We have a 125 square kilometer combined exploration portfolio across the 2 key trends, so the Carlin and the Battle Mountain Eureka trends. On top of that, we have a very shareholder-friendly structure with management owning over 15% of the outstanding float, and a very experienced team that's made multiple discoveries in Nevada, and I'll get into that shortly. So moving over to that team, a few guys I want to point out here. Mike Harp, my VP Exploration. He previously worked with Gold Standard Ventures, was part of every discovery made by that team since the mid-2000s, over 5 million ounces of discovery. So Mike knows what he's looking for. He lives in Nevada alongside myself, and this is our backyard, so we're really excited to be exploring here. On top of that, we have Lewis Teal and Mac Jackson. These are both longtime Nevada exploration geologists that have been part of over 20 million ounces of discovery over the past 20 years. On top of that, we're adding great pieces to the team like Peter Hardy, CFO of Equinox Gold. And I think that kind of speaks to the quality of the team that we're building when we're attracting that kind of talent to our team. So as we continue to grow, we'll be adding the right pieces to continue growing the company. And I think that all ties in really well with a very strong capital structure. So we recently completed a raise on May 3rd of $3.75 billion at 50 cents. We had a half warrant at 75 cents, and there's an accelerator on that warrant at $1.50. We have 5.8 million cash in the till as of June 1st. As I mentioned, 15% management ownership, of which I personally am the largest individual shareholder at 6.8%. So how did I do that? I went without a salary for the first year and a half of the company. I followed that up with putting $150,000 cash into the company on every financing through the 45-cent IPO. So I'm strongly aligned with my shareholders. I want to see this thing be a success. It's my only venture. And our team is very motivated as a whole. So we have 55 million shares outstanding, 69.9 fully diluted. And I think we have a situation here where if we have some continued success with the drill bit, we could really see the stock take off. So I'll mention I'm going to go through each of the 4 projects today because there's 4 of them. I'm going to not be able to touch on every single aspect, but I encourage anyone who has any questions to ask questions in the Q&A or go to our website where I have a very detailed Verify model on our website of each project. So first, we're going to start with Carlin East and Bell Creek. These are core land positions directly adjacent to some of the biggest mines in Nevada on the Carlin Trend. We have the Swift project, which is only 7 kilometers northwest of the Pipeline Mine, which is a 20 million ounce open pit on the Cortez district. And then, as I mentioned, we have a new discovery at our Salina project, which is in the South Carlin Trend. This is turning into something we honestly didn't expect. We were looking for gold, like I said, and we found silver, but it just keeps on getting bigger and bigger. So we just finished a drill program there. We have assays pending, and we're pretty excited about the potential at Salina as well. So first, we're going to go to Carlin East. As I mentioned here, this is a large land package. It's 35 square kilometers of 100% owned ground, and it's a high-grade underground target. So we're not going for oxide and shallow. We're going for the next Leeville, the next Meikle mine here on the North Carlin Trend. Here's a bird's eye view of what that looks like. As you can see, initially we had the Carlin East and Bell Creek properties back in 2019 combined together. We actually split them apart because the value at each project is tied to different areas of the trend. So at Bell Creek, the value at Bell Creek is tied to the ongoing development of the Wren and Banshee deposits that are owned by Nevada Gold Mines. Meanwhile, the value at Carlin East would be tied directly to the Leeville and North Leeville discovery that is directly on trend of our project. So we wanted to split those two projects apart because they're two different stories. So we'll start with Carlin East first. As you can see, we're only 3 kilometers from the Gold Strike open pit, which is a 50 million ounce open pit gold mine, one of the largest in the world. You move over to the Leeville underground deposit. This is a 10 plus million ounce high grade underground deposit. It was discovered in the 90s. They're still mining it. They're still discovering new gold there even now. And what I mean by that is if you look here at the Leeville corridor, they've actually, Barrick, Nevada Gold Mines, pretty much the same thing, but Barrick recently announced a discovery in 2020 called North Leeville that's directly on trend of the Leeville deposit. It's hosted along the same fault zone right here called the Four Corners Fault. And that fault cuts right across our project, and it's only 3.5 kilometers away from the edge of our property boundary. So some of the grades they've announced include 12.3 meters of 18 grams, 23 meters of 32 grams, 33 meters of 17 grams. I mean, these are world-class drill intercepts. They're in the same host rocks that cut across to our project at what we believe would be similar depths as well. So what we're going to be doing in our program that has actually just started up at Carlin East, we're going to drill multiple drill holes across this fault zone, the Four Corners Fault, to depth, and we're going to see if we can find a similar mineralized system to the North Leeville discovery. One thing that I want to point out that makes this such an exciting target is here's a gravity survey that we ran across our project. We also ran it all the way down to the Leeville mine. You can see that this whole area here, the bright red, that represents shallow carbonate host rocks. They're at Leeville. We know the discovery's there. We know they also extend onto our project, and they're at reachable depths. So one thing, we know that they're at the right depth. Now, something else that's of particular interest to us, we also have a really strong intrusive component to our project. So it's worth pointing out, this is a magnetic survey. So the bright colors represent potentially buried intrusions. Here's one big buried intrusion. Whoops, that was not what I meant to do. Here's one buried intrusion right here called the Gold Strike intrusion. Right along the intersection with that intrusion and fault zones, you have the Gold Strike mine, Genesis, and Leeville. That's almost 100 million ounces across those 3 mines alone, right on the margins of that intrusion. When you we ran a mag survey, we have a similar oriented buried intrusion at a greater depth than Gold Strike that is sitting directly beneath our project. So we ran a 3D mag inversion on that. And here's what the outline of that looks like. So this is really important to point out. As we mentioned, look where that new discovery is at North Leeville. It's sitting right in between where that fault zone intersects that buried intrusion at the Gold Strike intrusion. We'll look up to ours. Where does that fault go? Cuts right up, cuts through our intrusion, and right here is a North Leeville analog target that has never had a drill hole on it except for our hole in 2019, which was 1901. That was drilled. We hit the top of the lower plate target at 800 meters, and we were unable to continue that hole because we were drilling RC, and it was just frankly too deep. So what we're doing now is we're coming back. We have a drill hole pre-collared right there, another guy there, and another one here. And those are going to be pre-collared with RC, which means we put steel pipe down, we case the hole so it can't cave in on us, and then we finish it with deeper core holes within that so that we can drill through target depth and get good quality data. So this is a really high priority target for us. We're very excited for the potential. As you can see, we do all this, I'm rushing through here, but what we did over the last 2 years is we do all the geophysics, the mapping, the geochemistry to flesh out these targets. And now that we're fully funded and public, we're going after these targets and drilling them very aggressively. So you can see we get nice little geochem plumes along the fault zones. And here's what that 3D anomaly looks like. So as you can see, that's a buried intrusion. And that's a deep crack that is plumbing up gold-rich fluids along those structures and then bleeding out into the surrounding host rocks. Here's what it would look like in our conceptual target. So there's altered rock at surface right along that fault zone. And then if you zoom in here, we're going after the same target as North Leeville. There's that the Four Corners Fault, and we're coming in and we're targeting prospective host rocks on either side of that fault zone, just like the North Leeville discovery to the south, which is only 3 kilometers away. So positive results from this project would be incredibly exciting and it'd be an absolute game changer for Ridgeline. I think that, when you look at Nevada and juniors and where their land locations are in relation to some of the biggest discoveries in Nevada, we're in a very strong position heading into our drill program. So fingers crossed we hit some good results, and we'll have news coming out in August for that. Now moving over to the west to the Bell Creek project. This is just a 5-kilometer little postage stamp right beside the Wren Banshee deposit. We own 100% of the mineral rights. It's a very strategic land position for us. So it's a deep, deep target, but we're sitting directly adjacent to an existing gold mine with, that is going into development that Nevada Gold Mines is currently advancing. So any positive results on the drilling side for Nevada Gold Mines would be a huge development for the company. As you can see, here's that picture. We actually staked a hole on the ground last year. We haven't drilled it yet. As you can see, it's directly adjacent to this Wren and Banshee deposit here. And Barrick has previously been drilling holes in these, where these little X's are here. So they're interested in what's going on. We own 100% of the ground beside it. And I think it's a very strategic chunk of ground for us as we move forward. We just signed a strategic access agreement with Nevada Gold Mines. We announced that in May. What that means is we now have unrestricted access to the project over the next 4 years, utilizing the existing Nevada Gold Mines road infrastructure. So it saves us a lot of time and energy to access the project. So it's a very positive development for us. So moving on to Salina. This is a really exciting project for us. It's probably been the lion's share of our drilling over the last, call it 6 to 8 months. And that's because this thing just keeps on getting more and more exciting. It's shallow, it's oxide, and that's the kind of mineralization that Nevada was built on, right? So there's a lot of value here, and we want to better understand it as we move it forward. So we've been really hitting it hard with the drill bit. Here's a bird's eye view. Just want to point out, this is a historic mining district, so it really hasn't seen very much exploration over the last 20 years. It's starting to heat up now. And it's worth pointing out, the Golden Butte mine, that's a historic open pit mine, only 6 kilometers to the north. It's in the exact same host rocks. And you can see all these red hammers. That is all prospects, open pits, etc., that have historically been identified and or mined. So this is a very prolific area that is starting to get some more attention. We look to the northwest. We're only 12 kilometers away from the 5 million ounce Bald Mountain mine, and about 11 kilometers away from the Alligator Ridge mine, which is a 1 million ounce high grade open pit that was mined in the 90s. Exact same host rocks as what we're testing at Salina. So heading to the property. It took a little delay there, sorry. As you can see, we have a very large contiguous land package. It's 35 square kilometers, and we has picked up 51 historic drill holes back in early 2021 for a total of $10,000. Now, for us to recreate that drill data would have cost us almost $2 million in current time. So big acquisition for us. It highlighted the fact that there is an existing silver gold zone that wasn't previously recognized by the operators in the 1980s that we can go after, called the Sonic target. And I want to walk you through kind of how we made this discovery last year. So this is a geology map showing arsenic contours on it. So arsenic, antimony, lead, zinc, they're all great indicators of mineralization at the Salina project. So when we do soil samples, we're able to actually go in, contour that data, and where we see these plumes cropping out, such as here, up through here, is a sign of buried mineralization. So that was one of the first things that drew us to the project. The other thing that got us really excited is there's some incredible rock chips here. So, you look over at the Juniper target right here, we're seeing up to 1,200 grams silver, 2.4 grams gold, 1,500 silver, 5 grams gold. There's a very high grade bonanza component to this project, and that's what initially drew it to us. So the first thing we did in 2020 is we started trenching across these fault zones that we interpreted to be carrying mineralization, and we hit some pretty significant results. We had 38 meters of 0.75 grams gold, 49 grams silver, and we had multiple including intervals within that of up to, a gram per ton gold and higher silver as well. So we saw that got us really excited. The next step, we came in and we started drilling across this fault zone. And what I really want to point out is we initially thought that the controls on mineralization were northeast faults. What we're now realizing, after I think we're at 36 drill holes now, we now realize that those controls are actually northwest faults, and where they intersect northeasters is where you get these nice bleed out zones. So what we're seeing is a very consistent system that goes for 1.2 kilometers to the west, over 0.7 kilometers to the north-south. And what we now know too is with the historic data acquisition that was made over a kilometer to the north at Sonic, we now have a system that's over 2 kilometers long and almost 1.5 kilometers wide. So this thing is showing considerable scale. It's oxide, it outcrops at surface right here, and then it continues on a shallow dip down to the west. So I'll show you what this looks like in cross section. And here's that mineralization. As you can see, we had our historic trenches up here. Then the system just dips gently under the surface for over a kilometer down dip. And we see consistent oxide silver and gold grades, as you can see, up to 24 meters, 36 grams silver equivalent, 35 meters of 47, 36 meters of 78 grams silver equivalent. On average, this system appears to be increasing in grade as we drill at depth. So what we focused on this year is we drilled some additional holes. This guy is pending right now, hole 23, and we drilled other holes out to the west as well, trying to see, can we extend this system out to the west into new host rocks, like the Chayman Shale, which is host to mines in the area. And if we step to the south, 600 meters, and I want to point out here, a lot of these holes are really wide spaced. Like last year, we were just trying to show scale. So we're going to step 600 meters to the south, back into the screen. And this shows some even higher grades that we hit over at our holes 20 and 21, 19 and 21. You can see 44 meters of 74 grams, 33 meters of 36 grams, again with potential to expand this system out to the west, which is what we were focused on in our spring program, our phase 4 program this year. So this is, as I mentioned, we just finished our phase 4 program. So I was showing you drilling results from last year. We now have assays pending. All of these green dots that you see, those are all holes that we've drilled to both expand the system out to the north towards Sonic and expand the system out to the west into new host rocks. So we're really excited what we've seen so far. We're seeing good continuity. And I think what we can show with this project is that we have something that shows considerable scale. It's over 2 kilometers long now. It's 1.5 kilometers wide. And just to give a little perspective, it's tough to kind of sometimes add context to an open pit silver mine, as they aren't very common in Nevada and the Western US. It's usually gold with a silver credit. We actually see silver with a gold credit at our project. And the only other comparison for a silver open pit silver mine in Nevada is the Core Rochester mine owned by Core Mining. Now their average head grade at that project is 21 grams per ton silver equivalent, give or take. So that's a huge deposit. Obviously, I'm not saying this is necessarily the next Core, but what I am saying is that we're seeing significant grades that are a multiple on what we've seen, which you see in other open pit operating mines in the area. And there's a lot of potential to grow this deposit and have it become a key part of Ridgeline's story. And here's how we think we can grow it. So this is just a long section looking to the east. You can see here's our Sonic target that I mentioned previously. All those high-grade rock chips on the hillside that I mentioned previously, those at the Juniper target, we still need to figure out that system. It's pretty complex. But what we now know after drilling these holes in our phase 4 program is that we're seeing good continuity for 2 kilometers, a little over 2 kilometers in the north-south. And as I mentioned, to the east-west, we're seeing over 1.5 kilometers of down-dip continuity. As you can see, this dashed red line is really important. That is the top of the prospective host horizon in the gray unit, which is the Gilmet limestone. Historic drilling, they focus primarily shallow, right? They didn't drill into that dashed red line. They weren't looking for silver, so they didn't chase it. What we've done is we've come in, we've drilled deeper holes all the way along here beneath that dashed red line, as well as infilled multiple holes across this system to further prove our continuity along the main core of the discovery. So we're really excited about how this is looking. We have assays pending on 14 holes right now, and we hope to announce those throughout June as they're received. So last project I want to mention is our Swift project. It's our largest project by a long shot, and it's probably my favorite from a technical perspective. It's got all the right pieces for a buried Carlin type system. And I think just, economics and the times were kind of what had this fall out of Barrick's portfolio back in the mid 2000s. And we were able to acquire this project, grow more than double its land package, and we're seeing some pretty exciting results. We've confirmed that the Wenban formation exists on the project. What's really important about that is, as you can see, everything along this trend, the Cortez district, primary ore host is the Wenban formation. It's just a dirty limestone, and it's a great host. Gold loves it. Well, previously, no one figured that the Wenban went. They figured it stopped at that line. We've been able to come in. We've proven that it does continue. We have the Wenban formation on our project area, and we also have lots of evidence of surface geochemistry that suggests there's something going on in our project. So we're pretty excited to get into our 2021 program. We're going to be working on this in the fall, and this just gives you a good bird's eye. Like I mentioned before, something that's really worth pointing out is along the Cortez district, which is quickly becoming one of the largest trends in Nevada, with multiple high-grade discoveries at both the 4 Mile and the Gold Rush deposits. Something that's really interesting to point out is if you look, there's a general northwest trend to all of these deposits, right? Where they intersect cross-cutting northeast and north-south fault zones, you end up with a 10 to 20 million ounce gold mine. Well, the next regional break in the gravity, the geophysics, suggests that that next break cuts across our project. So this is only 7 kilometers from the pipeline mine. It has proof of mineralization with the old Elder Creek mine, which is right off the edge of the project. It shows that there's an active gold system in the area. And we have one drill intercept that also confirms that as well at depth in those Wenban host rocks. So there's a picture of the Elder Creek mine. As you can see, just totally beaten up upper plate rock. This is some of the worst host rock in Nevada, and it still has a gold mine, a small gold mine on it. So it shows that there's a strong system operating at depth. What we came in and did, just like all of our projects when we were private, we did the gravity, we did the geophysics, we went in, did surface mapping and geochemistry, and we built that story out. Now, what we did in 2020 is we felt that there was a great opportunity to go after shallow carbonate rocks where that bright red anomaly is. That would suggest that we have shallower uplifted carbonates. We knew that lower plate, which is the Wenban and Roberts Mountain formations, was 580 meters deep here and 727 meters deep here. So we came in, we drilled 3 holes right in the middle of that red anomaly called our Fallen City target. That Fallen City target corresponded with a very strong geochemical anomaly at surface. There's a nice arsenic plume right there. And we had one single drill hole here that drilled 18 meters of 0.65 grams per ton gold and never had a follow-up. So we drilled across that, and here's what it looks like in cross-section. So here's our interpretive cross-section of the Fallen City and Mill Creek targets. As you can see, there's that historic drill hole that I mentioned. That hit, I have 16.8 of 0.7. It's actually 18 of 0.65. I need to update this. But that's a historic drill hole. Never got a follow-up hole on it. Hit the right host rocks. Now, what we did is we wanted to come in and prove we could hit those same host rocks, but at a much shallower depth, right? 727 meters. It's not a cheap hole to drill. Our first hole hit the Wenban formation at 400 meters. We hit strong skarn alteration and calc-silication. Now, to just simplify that down, the rock was too altered and too tight, or if you want to call it that, to actually mineralize with a strong gold system. We got narrow fractures, controlled mineralization of up to 860 grams silver, 0.2 grams gold, but we did not get a high-grade gold system. What we realized as we drilled deeper is there's a big buried intrusion here that we didn't recognize. So what we want to do is we want to drill on either side of that buried intrusion where we have a known gold intercept at Mill Creek. We also have a known Elder Creek, the unknown Elder Creek gold mine sitting right above a kilometer to the south on that gold anticline target. The gold anticline has never had any consistent drilling across it, and that gold had to flow up from something to go up and mineralize that mine at surface. So we're going to, this next drill program, we're going to come in, we're going to test the gold anticline, we're going to test on the other side of the Mill Creek target. And we think there's great potential here to make a high-grade, completely blind Carlin-type discovery. And we're targeting something like the Gold Rush or the 4 Mile type of deposit, right? That's the grade and size that we're going for in this kind of district. So here's just a picture of the core. We actually own the core from that drill hole in 1999. And as you can see, it's a classic Carlin-type alteration signature. It's 18 meters of 0.65. And just for context, Barrick recently announced 34 meters of 1 gram per ton at their North Leeville target. Now that's roughly 500 meters off of the fault, the Four Corners fault, from where that high grade is. So if you put that in context, we've already drilled, or historically, they've already drilled an intercept that is comparable to that at Mill Creek. So we know we're in the close vicinity of potentially a larger gold system. And I think that we can show with some very quick drill programs that there's a lot of potential here at this project. So in summary, some of the near-term catalysts that I'd like to point out. As I mentioned in May, we finished a financing of $3.75 million. I needed to update this and I didn't. That's now $5.8 million, not 6.4. In May of 2020 and early June, or 2021 and early June, we finished our Selena program. It's 3,445 meters across 14 holes. And we have a lot of assays pending throughout June and early July for that program. Now we're moved over to our Carlin East project. We just started that program. It's going to take about probably 8 to 12 weeks to finish the full 3-hole program. Remember, these holes are 1,000 meters deep at a time. These are deep holes. They take a long time to drill. So the results from the first hole probably will be coming out mid to late August, and we'll keep the market updated of our progress as we go along. So I think that Ridgeline Minerals offers incredible upside in a rising gold market. You see shallow oxide silver gold play at Salina, and we have 2 game-changing potential targets at both Carlin East and Swift that, if we're right at either one of them, changes the company in a material way. So I appreciate you all taking your time and looking forward to answering your questions.
That is remarkable. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I have to say the presentation was fairly innovative. We've had lots of comments in the chat window about how impressive the technology is. So thank you. Thank you for that. It's a great journey.
Appreciate it.
That's great, Chad. And honestly, I think you have one of the most interesting and fun jobs on the planet. It's about exploration and potential. I've really heard a lot of the passion and the potential that you shared too. So we'll move right over to questions and get as many in as we can. We've had a number of Q&A populated from around the world. So if you're okay, we'll just get right into it here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Great. A question comes in saying, can you please provide some context on the silver grades at Salina and how that relates to a potential heap leach operation?
Right. I probably touched on it a little bit there. But, I think what you want to see, metallurgy's obviously key with these projects, right? So with any heap leach operation, you want to see good metallurgy. We're working on that metallurgy question right now. So we have 10 different composites from 2020 drilling running through the lab right now to show us what our potential heap leach recoveries are. But on average, silver doesn't tend to recover as well as gold. So if you can have a silver project that is heap leaching anywhere from 50 to 70% in a heap leach scenario is really excellent recoveries. Okay. And you're going to want to see, at the end of the day, it's your gross metal, right? Whether that's coming from silver or gold, you want to see, at least $25 to $40 a ton rock for a heap leach scenario to make sense typically. I mean, that's obviously, don't quote me on that. That can vary considerably, right? But that's a good benchmark to go with. So in our case, you look at the Rochester mine, they have good recoveries. They have very low grades, right? So their recoveries are in the 70s, but their grades are around 21 grams per ton silver equivalent. We'd be going after something, where on average, we're seeing at least a double of that grade on average, and sometimes 2 to 3, 3 to 4 times that grade. In our zone. So we need to prove that the metallurgy is good, but we certainly know that our grade is there.
Okay, that's great, Chad. Thank you for sharing that. Let's move around geography here a little bit. How does the geology at the crash zone target compare to the North Leeville to the south?
Great. That's probably something that's best explained here. I got some appendix here that we can go through. Great. So what I want to point out is we're going to look at a cross section that cuts right across the turf deposit, right? The transition from turf to North Leeville. In reality, they're the same system, right? They're just drilling the extension of the turf ore body.
Okay.
And here's what this looks like. So this is that Four Corners fault zone.
Yes.
That cuts right across the edge of our project. They're hitting some incredible results right on the edge of turf. And then north of that, about 500 meters to a kilometer to north, is the continuation of the North Leeville deposit in the same host rocks that are transitioning to actually from Roberts Mountain here. The purple is actually transitioning to the Bootstrap Formation, which is just, to keep it simple, they're 2 different types of limestones, but they're both good ore hosts. Okay. So what we're really excited about is we're testing the same, as you can remember from our cross section. This is our target. We're going right after that same footwall side. So when you have fluids flowing up this gold system, they flow up the faults and they bleed out into the prospective host rocks. Okay. So that's a perfect cap. Think of it almost like an oil reservoir, right? You got a fault, you got a cap rock right here, and all the mineralization just likes to sit and pool right there. So we're going after that type of an analog. And we know that we've hit this unit here. So our 2019 drilling hit the Rodeo Creek. Now that's the unit that sits directly above all of these host rocks. We know that we have the preserved section, at least in the top. This program is going to prove, can we get down into that fault zone, into those prospective host rocks?
Okay, that's great, Chad. Thank you very much. Next question reads, what would be considered a success at the Carlin East drill program, given it's still an early stage target?
Do you want my version of success, or do you want the market's version of success? Sometimes those are wildly different things. I can provide both. in our eyes, this is a completely blind target that's been forgotten about for 30 years, right? It sits only 3 kilometers from some of the biggest gold mines in the world. So our version of success is hitting the right host rocks at a reasonable depth that's consistent with the North Leeville discovery to the south. And if we have any alteration at all and gold numbers, we'd be incredibly excited. Again, I'll point out here, here's that North Leeville discovery map in plan view. Here's where they hit 31 meters of 1 gram per ton. Look at how close they are to 23 meters of 32. Right. You look at that, it's about 500 meters away. So if we were to hit 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters of a half gram or a gram, that would be incredibly exciting, because we already know there's a benchmark for what the low grade mineralization looks like around the edge of the deposit. So for us, that would be the definition of yes, this is a successful program. Now, obviously, just like anybody else, we're hoping to drill 23 meters of 32, but we'll wait and see.
Understood. Thank you for that perspective. Question comes in saying, with so many great projects in your portfolio, how do you determine priorities, Chad, and deploy your capital?
Yeah, so we started the company. Our focus was really focused on data-driven, systematic exploration. So when we acquired these projects, our goal was to acquire as much good ground as we could early on, right? When it was still cheap and easy to acquire ground in Nevada 3 years ago. And now what we've been doing over the last 3 years is we're defining which one of these projects is going to be our flagship, if you want to call it that, and which ones are we going to, monetize, joint venture, et cetera. And I think a good example of that is, our Salina discovery. It's a silver gold play. It looks like it has economic potential, and we're going to take it to that point where we can then either move it into someone else's hands who can take it to the finish line and put it into production, or joint venture it, et cetera. But, if we have success at Carlin East, that obviously is, a game changer, and that would, we'd want to advance that project while potentially finding partners for our other assets.
Okay, great, Chad. Thank you. You mentioned your investment around 6 and some odd % in the company. As an investor, what are the near-term catalysts that we should be watching for?
Well, I think, very near term, we have results coming out of Salina. I think that's going to be a very important program for showing the growth potential. But Carlin East is really the big one. We're going to keep the market abreast of how the program's going. We'll put out results as they're received. And I think, like I said, a positive results at Carlin East would change the company for the better, for sure.
Okay, thank you for that. James writes in.
Yeah.
James writes in and says, at this point, when do you plan to drill Swift? Is there any chance you can option it out to a bigger partner who could hit it hard with a large program?
That's a great question. So, as the previous question mentioned, we have 4 projects. They're not cheap to drill, these deep guys. And we would absolutely consider optioning that project out to a bigger group that obviously we'd want to stay involved in the exploration. We're not ready to walk away from this thing. But if we can bring in a partner that believes in the story and wants to throw some cash at it to advance it, we would absolutely do so.
Okay. Thank you for the openness there. Since you and your exploration team live in Nevada, what advantages do you think that brings?
Well, it's actually been huge, especially during COVID. I think it would be less pronounced during a global pandemic, but, right. We were able to, I was able to IPO the company from my Zoom meetings in 2020 from my Winnemucca office or my kitchen table. And at the same time, I was able to still be very active in the exploration with our team. I got an incredible geology team, Mike Harp and Gabe Aliaga. They're just 2 of the best geologists I've ever worked with in my career. And, so I've been able to, because we're all locally based, we've been able to advance these projects very aggressively when other CEOs and technical teams are waiting to get across the border. We've been doing drill programs and making discoveries.
Great advantage. Thank you for that. Let's talk a bit about the team, because obviously you're a great front man for the organization and the vision of where things are going. But tell us a bit more about who else is behind the scenes that we really should be aware of in terms of their shining, their skill set.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I can probably just show it easiest by showing the team here so I can speak to it.
Great.
One of the, like Dwayne Lowe, for example, he's our behind the scenes guy. He's our CFO. He was my first director in the company, right? Like he was there when I was still working out of my garage, believed in what we were trying to do. And it's been a huge guiding role in kind of just the growth of the company. But really what I'm focused on is, we're a young, aggressive team. We're really hungry. Mike is, I think, 37. I'm 34. Gabe is, I think he just turned 30. So what we wanted to do is we have some ideas of how we want to do exploration in Nevada. And what we focused on was adding those pieces like Peter Hardy, Jeff Chater, Mac Jackson, all these guys who have been there, done it, made multiple discoveries in Nevada and globally. And so we're really relying heavily on those teams to help guide us with the bigger picture thinking for the company, and then letting, kind of letting a hungry young team go after the discoveries.
Great. Well, I heard evolution from the garage to the kitchen table. That's a very good sign.
Yeah, well, my wife was so excited when I moved out of the garage. She was able to park her car again. So we actually have an office. It's nothing special, but at least I'm out of the garage.
It's a move in the right direction. Absolutely. I love those stories. We always have to ask this question when you're thinking about the potential of a company with this type of energy. What's your ultimate exit strategy, Chad? Develop or divest?
Right. And, I get that a lot. And we're a discovery focused company. We're not looking to put things into production. I think that there's a distinct skill set that finds deposits, and there's another one that produces them. And our team is a team of that is focused on discovery. We've done it multiple times, and I think we want to make discoveries, find partners, divest those assets, obviously for a premium to our shareholders. And I think we're in the kind of market right now that's going to reward discoveries very, very well. So I think we're in a good time right now to add value for our shareholders. And I think this year's program is going to be huge for us.
I appreciate that. We've had some great details already in the presentation and some of the answers to the questions that are coming in from all over. But can we do the 30,000 foot view, where we do the big picture? And let's just imagine a calendar in your mind, or a timeline. Let's say over the next 12 to 18 months, what are the key turning points or key dates or highlights that we should keep an eye on with you?
Right. And as a junior explorer, I mean, it's felt like I've been just kind of barely staying ahead of of the rush over the last 2 years. But now that we have 5.8 million in the bank, we have another almost 5 million in warrants, half of which are in the money, I think, today. So what I'd like to do is, we want to have success with the drill bit this year. Get those warrants exercised. That's going to put us in a position where we probably have great operating capital for the next 2 to 3 years. So I want to secure our cash position, which will come off the backs of hopefully some good exploration. And I'd like to monetize some of these assets in the next 12 months. I'd like to see some of them going into the hands of majors that can put these into production. And, we'll retain a carried interest in those stories. And whatever flagship we end up choosing, that's going to stay 100% owned asset. We're going to take that to the finish line, hopefully.
Terrific. Well, I have to say, you bring a lot of passion to the pitch. And again, the presentation was top drawer. We got a lot of comments on that. So I appreciate being able to watch as you walk us through that. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on, or that comes to mind through the course of the presentation that you want to share?
You know what? I just encourage any shareholder that's, it is a complex story. We got a lot of moving parts. And I really encourage anyone that likes the story to either contact me directly at cpeters@ridgelineminerals.com. Contact our info address. I'd love to walk you through the projects in detail, and check out our website. All the stuff that I've talked about today, it's there. It's at your fingertips. You can walk through the Verify on your own. And really appreciate you guys taking the time to let me tell the story.
Well, it's been fantastic to journey with you. I appreciate the excitement and the passion once again. We look forward to watching the company moving forward. Chad, thanks for your time today.
Thank you. Oh, I think my IR guy would kill me, by the way, if I didn't. Our website is ridgelineminerals.com, since I didn't mention that. And we trade on the TSX Venture at RDG, and the OTC at RDGMF, and the Frankfurt Exchange at 0GC0. So that's all. Thank you.